Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Genni and Songfluencer. Some of you might know me under that. But want to welcome everyone to our wonderful panel on creator management. I've got some wonderful guests today. I've got, well, you know what? Why don't I just hand over the mic and start with you, Lori? I'll let you give a brief introduction of you and who you are, what you do, what Select does, and then I'll pass it over to Arthur.
Sure thing. Well, thank you, Johnny, for having me today. I'm really excited to be chatting with you and with everybody here. My name's Lori. I'm a talent manager at Select Management Group. We are a 360 management company, and I'm sure we will dive more into what that means. I've been here for about going on 6 years. Wow, well, saying that out loud, it's kind of crazy, but going on 6 years. And I have a diverse roster, I would say, that spans across lifestyle, beauty, and family channels. And I'm sure I'll share more about them in a bit.
Awesome. Arthur?
Hey there, I'm Arthur. I am the managing director of Grail Talent. We're a fairly new agency based mostly around TikTok. We highlight inclusivity, I would say. We represent people of sort of all genres, like TikTok accountable genres, types, shapes and sizes. We represent people from all over the world, and we have people working for us from all over the world. Obviously, I'm based in the UK, but we've got a lot of people in the US, Latin America, and Europe.
Incredible. Thanks, Arthur. Tony?
Hey, I am the head of talent at 6 Degrees of Influence. We are a influencer marketing and talent management agency. That is a dual agency where we work with brands directly, as well as we have a roster of talent, exclusive talent. We are TikTok heavy in the Gen Z community, as well as we do work with various millennials across all verticals on every platform, specifically TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and some Snap as well. And we too, just as Lori was saying, I'm sure we'll get into the specifics of all of what SDI is all about here and all the different things that we do, and looking forward to answering more questions.
All right. Josh, what's up, man?
Hi, hey, everybody. Nice to meet you all. My name is Josh DeAngelis, co-founder, head of talent at Palette. Similar to what Arthur said, we were founded just a few years ago. We're a new company focused mostly on TikTok. We manage short form video creators across all the platforms. And we also have a boutique marketing agency, which has helped us procure the bones of understanding how short form videos take off.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, just want to hop in with some questions. I've prepared a few, but for any of the audience members, if you do have any questions for any of the panelists or me, but I'm not that smart, so don't ask me any questions. Put it in the chat. Baco on our team will help surface some of those. And then also Arthur, Tony, Josh, Lori, if you guys have anything that you'd like to ask or tee up for a conversation, or you think would be important for some of the folks on in the audience to hear, definitely feel free to talk about it. But let's get rolling here. I'll start first, and kind of how I like to let this roll is I'll just call on someone to answer like one of the first topics, and then it's up to you guys to hand the mic off to someone else for them to answer. So whichever way we go about it is totally free flowing. But so everyone here is a creator manager. Sounds like everyone here has had a few years experience doing that. Walk us through, and Tony, I'm going to go to you first, man. Walk us through why you sign certain creators, how you go about that, and what your experience has been. Is there like an ethos? Is there a strategy? Why would you take on a certain person on your roster?
Well, for us, yes, after having been doing this now for 5+ years, we have developed a recruiting process, which is very important to the agency simply because each one of us in our different companies, I'm sure have found that we work well with a certain type of talent. And for us, now that we've been able to narrow down the type of talent that works with SDI, that does well, that books well, that executes well for us, those are the type talents that we want to sign. So when someone is interested in us or we're interested in them, we acquire all of their information, their socials. We analyze those things in terms of the team. And if it's a good fit in terms of from the information and the details that we have acquired, then we find out if that talent is interested in management. And if so, then from that point, we do a pitch call. And after the pitch call, if that works out and all the details from that align with what SDI likes to see, then we take it from there and move towards a exclusive management arrangement. So.
Quick question, as you were talking about that, how many people are involved in selecting on your behalf, like on SDI's behalf?
I do probably the majority of the recruiting, but some of our upper level management, as well as some of our coordinators, if they see someone that they think is of interest, as well as we get inquiries from our website, which is another outlet of that, then they'll bring that to me or bring the person's information to me to review. And then it just kind of follows the process from there.
Cool. Awesome. Well, hand the baton over to someone, Tony.
Well, I think I'd love to hear what Lori has to say about their process.
Sure thing. Well, the good thing about our industry is there is no shortage of talent, that's for sure, and it grows every year. I would say we are very strategic about the talent that we sign. First and foremost, it's really important for us to hear from them about what their long-term goals are. And oftentimes, we will reach out to talent that we're interested in, have potential, just to hear what their story is and what they're interested in doing with their business. And then from there, we see if it's a fit by running it by the whole team. So we here at Select, we have our own process of, we actually meet with the talent team. We highlight specific creators that we think would be valuable adds to our roster. And what's cool about that is that, I could come across somebody on TikTok and be like, they're so funny, but I don't think, maybe let's wait until they grow a little bit bigger. They have great engagement. And then another member from the team will be like, actually, I saw them on the Ellen show or something. And, they might not be huge on TikTok right now, but they're going to blow up eventually. So it's best for us to have that conversation and see if it's a good fit. So that's what I love, that one process that I love here at Select is we really do work with each other and value each other's opinions. Like I said, we typically hop on a call with them. We hear about what they want to do with their business long-term. For me specifically as a manager, what I really look for is somebody that is eager and hungry to learn and grow. Obviously, we all want to make money here, which is great. But if that's your primary goal with your platform and your content, good luck to you. But it's you really have to be eager to learn and grow. Like, why is it that the YouTube algorithm works this way versus the TikTok algorithm? What from your expertise and experience can I do better as a creator? And how can we do that together and grow the business together? So we're always looking for talent that are hungry, that are excited, and want to learn and grow.
Yeah, jumping off of Lori's point, we see creators in 3 different phases. There's the growth phase, the monetization phase, and then the syndication phase. So a lot of the creators that enter into our ethos, probably in the growth phase. The monetization phase is normally when they come to us and they're like, hey, I have too many inbound deals in my inbox. I don't know how to handle them. So it's important for us to understand that, because we are not creators. If we were, we'd probably be making the TikToks or the Instagram reels. So, but we do want to make sure that we're helping creators that we have expertise in and understand the space. I think there is a network effect to managing creators of a similar ilk, whether it's we have videographers or the ASMR home lifestyle type of creators. So I think it's important just from the relationships that you build across the certain brands and agencies that we work with, and then also honing in and taking the learnings from the rest of the roster and applying them to the creators on our specific rosters per manager. Arthur.
Yeah, when we're looking for creators, I think we're just really looking for anyone and everyone who we think we can get deals for. I mean, what disappoints me most as a manager is not being able to bring someone deals because maybe there's not sufficient interest from the brands that we're working with, or the labels or bookers that we're working with. But I really think that nothing's off limits for us, because it's really hard to tell where the next trend is going. Like, one of the biggest TikTokers in the UK is a train fanatic who now has a sort of North Face Gucci collab. So I think with us, we try to be as open-minded as possible, and we try to encourage our managers to sort of go out there and really be experimental and speak to anyone and everyone who is keen. And I think the only real limit to it is just if we think we're not able to supply for them, because letting people down is so disappointing. But I think something that we try to do as much as possible is sort of have versatility in our roster, and diversify as much as possible.
Arthur, is it that way? Like, are you looking for versatility and diversity because your relationships with brands and agencies kind of reflect that, or is that some kind of cornerstone of the business that you're developing?
We speak to a lot of bookers and brands, and I think you never really know what's going to come next from them. Like, we had a request the other day for someone who specialized in table setting, and I thought to myself, fortunately, maybe that's something that we might be able to provide for. But if we didn't take as wide a span approach as we do to our recruitment, we would probably be so in one lane that we'd only ever be able to take one type of deal or one type of promo. And as I said before, like, I think something that people trick themselves with in this industry is thinking that they can predict what people will want and what's going viral and where things are going. I think personally that it's very much more about going with the flow and going with what the people want. So like, when I'm personally looking for an account, I just normally think if I like it, I will go for it, because I'll be like, oh, that's cool. That person's like having a really good time and is obviously has an audience that's enamored with them for one reason or another. And I think that's what's brilliant about TikTok as an app, is it allows people to be themselves unapologetically, and sort of garner a fantastic audience from that. And it's really allowed sort of niche cultures to reveal themselves and reveal their popularity.
Love it. All right. I'm going to go to another question now that everyone's kind of got this one out of the way. So we get this question a lot. We always get the question of like, why does this creator cost this much money? And why are they charging this for this? And why are their usage rights this? This person only has 20,000 followers. Why are they charging this? We get that often. And I'm sure there's a lot of audience members that would like some insight in this from you guys. I want to talk about rates. How do you determine the creator's base rates for song and brand promotions or any kind of endorsements? How do you think about that? Are these the certain baseline things? What are some of the variables involved? Walk us through all of that. And Josh, I'll start with you, man.
Yeah. Johnny, you taught me a lot about audio promos back when we started the company. I know getting into the space, obviously the labels were the first ones really to dive into TikTok spending. So that market's pretty set in stone. We price our creators at roughly around a $2 CPM based on the videos of them using audios, right? So we want to be good partners to the labels that we're working with, and we don't want to just price based on total average views. If a creator doesn't use audios, those views on those videos don't really apply to when they're using an audio for a label. So we try to listen to the market and listen to what the partners are telling us. And that's roughly the rate that everyone's going for. So that's how we price. For the brand side, it comes down to the content that you're making and the audience that you're speaking to. So for, let's call it a lifestyle creator who's promoting women's like makeup or skincare, having a large female audience is important because you're selling to women. Women tend to buy more products than men. Having a large US or UK, Canadian audience, those are important for brands because those are high CPM regions. And then is the creator brand friendly? Are they family friendly? Are they talking to camera, or are they only using audios? Those are just some of the toggles that make sense in pricing. And then it also comes down to what the brand category is. Some brands have higher marketing spends than others. It really just comes down to what are their budgets and what is the specific campaign. So those are just a few of the things that we think about, but we can dive into like the exclusivities and the usage and all that stuff. I think at the time of the year, really, Q4 is a big time. A lot of folks buy things in Q4, so prices are different then than they are in Q1. Yeah. I could talk about this all day, but I will let someone else.
I remember when the music industry first was like, wait a minute, we got to pay for usage rights to boost a piece of content. People lost their minds. They thought I was pulling their chain. I was like, oh, wait, whoa. There's nothing going on here. Hey, all right. Josh, who you want next?
Tony, he's unmuted, so.
Cool. So to be honest with you, I want to mirror what Josh said. He eloquently put that entire question in a way that is exactly how we go about setting our prices. For audio promos, it's average based on the general market, the $2 CPM. For those that are doing them on a regular basis, if you want to be competitive. And then for the brands, it's various variables that attribute to the pricing of what you're looking for. It's analytics, it's the brand budget, it's the type of creator that you're dealing with, as well as their audience. All of those things are factors that are attributable to determining what a rate is going to be, because sometimes the brands will come to you and they'll, give you up front what the budget's going to be. And you have to figure out if that works for you as well as the creator that they're interested in, or whether or not you need to be able to curate a list or find a creator that fits that type of situation. Or sometimes a brand wants to come to you and they want to give you all the criteria, and then they want you to tell them who's a good fit based on that. And then you discuss budget afterwards. So you kind of have to be strategic in both ways to make sure that us managers are able to get the type of rates that we need for our clients, as well as to be a win-win situation for our brand clients, so everybody's kind of happy. So I kind of think that's kind of where we kind of fall into the whole scheme of setting our rates as well, because every creator is different, and every deal is going to be different based on an ask. And like you were saying, Johnny, when you throw the whole usage and the licensing in there, and when brands want to take the videos and they want to take them off platform and they want to do this and they want to do that, you're right. All of those factors are important in determining a rate, because my client's image and likeness cannot just be used in perpetuity just because we've done a deal with you. No, that's not fair to my client, and we're not going to just give that away in that way. So, that's pretty much, like I said, I think where we align with dealing with rates. What do you think, Arthur?
Yeah, I mean, I think you both actually put that really well. We used to look at the CPM model a little bit when we were doing rates, and I do kind of give a CPM model when I'm onboarding new managers, telling them how to do pricing, because I think pricing is something you very much got to get used to in the climate. That being said, I think that for me, it's really just supply and demand, and it's the way in which the deal is going. Like if I'm going to brands and trying to pitch out my creators and getting deals, I've got to accept that I'm probably going to settle for a slightly lower price than if they're coming to me. You know, if they're excited to use my creator, they've scouted the whole of TikTok and they found my creator perfect for their campaign. I think that that probably garners a higher price than if I go and try and get a deal for my creator. But I mean, I think the supply and demand thing goes a little bit further, especially with like song promos. And, you know, you'll see like your sort of quintessential LA TikToker maybe garnering a lot more money than the $2 CPM limit might sort of indicate, because they have that sort of cool aspect. Maybe they can do anything. They can dance, make videos about relationships, do trends. You know, their scope is so wide, and they're very versatile. However, other creators who otherwise get many, many views. So like we have a couple of ASMR creators on our books who get sort of millions of views every video. And, you know, with the $2 CPM model, they would be getting thousands of dollars for every promo. But at the end of the day, people don't necessarily, you know, that ASMR very rarely fits a brief, for song promos at least. I mean, it sometimes does, ASMR and art, but mostly, you know, they're a lot more specific to people and interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. So that's where the sort of demand for the views is very high, but the demand for the content isn't as high. So I think it's all sort of kind of a consistent trade-off. And with pricing, it's very much a judgment. I'm pretty firm on not changing prices too much, because I'm sure Johnny can understand people changing prices, especially when you're putting in campaign proposals weeks before, can be very difficult. But I think, yeah, I think it's important just to like slowly but surely gain a judgment. And I don't think that there's really much that can be taught about it, aside from just using examples of like the creators that, you know, we manage or any of you manage.
Lori?
Yeah, I'm actually
Give us
really
some fire, Lori. Give us some fire. Give us some fire.
I really agree a lot with Tony and Josh and Arthur. I really agree with everything that you're saying, especially on the sentiment of it's so unique. Me personally, I really approach every single negotiation and every single campaign uniquely. However, of course, I do carry some sort of like a baseline for my clients, because you would never want to quote such different numbers for different campaigns, and then for them to come back and be like, why did this person go from this to this so drastically within 2 days? So we do have some sort of baseline that is justified based on CPMs, based on their data, based on their demo, based on their reach, and all of those numbers. But like, as Tony was mentioning, you really want to make this a win-win for not just your client, but also for the brand that you're working with, because truly, and I'm sure we can all agree here, that relationships are everything. And I'm sure for all of you guys, if you make a brand happy and you work on a really great campaign together, they will come back. Oftentimes, and I've heard this from friends in the space that work on the brand side, is oftentimes brands or agencies will choose to work with a creator solely just from the experience of how great they are to work with. And so, when it comes to rates and all of that, again, every campaign is different and it's so unique. And it also depends on the time of year, as Josh was saying. Q4 is a heavy time of year, and if a client only takes 4 deals a month, I mean, like you guys can, you can kind of see where we would go versus this person or that, but it's also depending on the brand too. So this is just an example. If Gucci wanted to work on an Instagram post for 4K and Apple wanted to do 10K, but my client has been dying to work with a designer brand, we're going to go with the lower rate, even though that's way below their standard. But it's also opportunity, creating that relationship, creating that longevity in your career. So that's all things that we consider. But I'm glad to see, I think overall we all are in agreement that it's not just a one price. And I think as a manager or anyone in representation, the worst thing you can do for your client would be like, these are our prices, take it and leave it. It's not a menu. We're not a restaurant.
Even though I'm sure a lot of brands might want you to be. You're like, let's talk, let's do this thing. I get it. All right. Well, we got a lot of great questions in the chat. I'm going to ask a couple more and then get to those in a second. So this is a juicy one that I want to get into. I want to get into like war stories. If we got them, guys, you don't need to like name specific names. We're not looking for that, or don't tell us exactly who it is or whatever. Don't even allude to it. But what is either the most frustrating thing that a brand or a record label has ever done with you or to one of your clients, or what is like a common like thing that just irritates the crap out of you and you're just like, you guys need to get this and stop doing it like this. So either a war story or something that's so common and you just wish the world would just change. I don't think I've started with Arthur yet. So, Tony's ready to go. He's like, I got you, Johnny. I got
Well,
you.
I mean, you know, hey, I tell you, and this is common, I'm sure, for all of us across the board. So I don't really have any, you know, ugly, ridiculous nonsense stories, because as representatives, like Lori said, we all probably deal with a lot of the same issues or concerns. And just the one thing that irks me is when we go through the process with a brand, choosing creators, finalizing rates, and when we're waiting to move forward, then they come back and say, oh, by the way, we decided to go in a different direction, and if something changes, we'll get back to you. And to me, and I respect the creative process, so I know that is a legitimate response sometimes, but I also know that after we've spent X amount of time getting to the final point of moving forward and closing the deal, for us, after we've told our creator, we've gotten them excited about the possibility of this deal happening, so they're ready to rock and roll, and they're looking at us like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to love doing this. I got a great idea. And then the brand comes back and says, oh, sorry, we're going to have to move in a different direction, and we don't, you know, we're not going to be doing this deal, but we'll let you know if things change in the future. That's just one of the things that irk me from that perspective, from a brand relationship, in dealing with us from our side, having to prep our creators for a possible deal, and this is the response we get back. Outside of that, I don't really have any major war stories, because everything is potentially in contract. So once you go in contract, you know the deal is going to happen. And then sometimes, I guess, dealing with song promos when there are no agreements, you really don't know what's going to happen there. But that is what it is, and it's really not a big deal when it comes to that for me. So
Basically, you don't like the fishing. Like,
well, I don't mind the fishing. It's when something comes back on the hook and then you got to put it back. You know what I'm saying?
No
You done
catch and release in Tony's world.
You
No
done
catch and
reeled it
release.
in and everything's there. And then it's like, oh, that fish is too small. Give it back. We're not taking that one. So that's, you know, that's just my deal with that. So my pet peeve.
All right. Pass it off. Oh man, Lori's ready to go. Sorry, Tony, she stole your thunder.
I actually had a different answer for this question, but just going off of what you said, Tony, I couldn't agree more. And to elaborate even more, for not only is that really annoying, for lack of a better word, especially when you're, one of the things that I've seen, not too much, but I have seen it a number of times, is when we are in the middle of negotiations in the contract. You know, you have the brand's attorneys and you have your talent's attorneys, and your attorney asks, can we please remove the language that says in perpetuity, you own their content? And the brand, for some reason, says this is our standard, and you know, we're not able to move it because it would take layers and layers and layers of legal approval. And we're like, but if she signs this contract, technically by contractually, you own their content in perpetuity and can exploit it in any way, shape, or form worldwide. We're not signing that. Right. And then all of a sudden they go, okay, never mind, we're not doing the deal. But before that, we had agreed in writing that these are the usage terms that we are doing for this deal. So why is it such a problem to remove that specific statement.
Mhm.
And, and then they'll go with a talent who unfortunately maybe doesn't have management and will just sign their
Yes, yes.
lives away. And that's why creators need managers, because we look out for you in this way. And I've come across way too many, new talent calls and potential clients who are like, how do I get the billboard that I did with this brand out of, Sunset Boulevard? And I'm like, girl, you can't. You signed the contract. I mean, we can get an attorney, we can try, but you sign the contract, and, I just, that's going off what you said, Tony. It's very frustrating. Like, we had an agreement. Let's just stick to it. Let's make money. Let's have fun. Let's not do that,
Preach, Lori, preach. And she is so right about that, because I have experienced that too, where we'll be dealing with a brand and they'll have that nonsense in the contract, and they'll come with well, if we have to take that out, then, we're not going to be able to do the deal. And it's just so ridiculous to be so bullying, to have a clause that is only beneficial for the brand and is not even considering the creator. And to think that you can own their image, likeness, or video in perpetuity is just nonsense of any caliber, that someone could actually think that they could do that unless they're paying, a mega payment price to own that for that type of period of time. So yes, I just wanted to say that too, because that is something else, Lori, that I've dealt with, and it is very frustrating to come across that when we're negotiating, and to see that in agreement and they're not willing to negotiate, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Arthur, you give us some insight on that for you.
Well, I actually had a slightly different one, which was something that kind of annoys me is when I'm working with a brand. It's mostly with brands, this, and we're doing redrafts, and I'm always happy to do a redraft because I'm completely accepting that not everyone does drafts perfect the first time. But it starts to feel like they're slightly micromanaging my creator. And I think to myself, you pick this creator because they have a fantastic audience that loves their content. And I completely understand that you're trying to promote your product in such a way. And I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem when it starts to feel unnatural for my creator to make said content, because there are so many comments, tiny little bits are getting pulled up. And then I've on some occasions had to go back to these brands and sort of say, look, we're not going to do a redraft. We'll be prepared to pull out of this deal. But you're just kind of making this unnatural now, not really respecting the creator for who they are. And I think that is a big problem in this industry, is brands and big companies treating creators sort of like objects, sort of just to do their advertising and marketing bidding. And much like Laurie was saying, creators need managers for these reasons. Like, you've got to be out there protecting your creator, making sure that just because they're threatening to cut a big deal, you have to do the redrafts that's in the contract. I sort of think that a foot should be put down at some point, and these brands should really understand where the line is, because I'm all for making the perfect piece of content, that the brand has in mind. But I also think that it should not come at the sacrifice of the creators' sort of values and the content that put them in the position in which made the brand think that they wanted to work with them.
I'm going to chime in again here, Johnny, just quickly. I just seem to have a lot to say about this topic. And that's a great point you made, Arthur. And I think there's two things that we deal with from the manager side on that. One is that we work with a lot of brands or companies that are inexperienced in our space of social media. So because of that, they, in their minds, see a certain type of video, a certain type of way, and they lose focus of the fact that they've come to us for our creator to actually insert their product into their content. And when they lose that sight and they don't see that representation in the video that we produce for them, then they're not happy with that. And unfortunately, that's where I think the nonsense of the redrafts come in, because they have an expectation of what it is that they want to see. And then you also, the other twofold of that is that you got to look at it like this. A lot of these traditional brands dealt in advertising in a totally different way where there wasn't social media. So they have their ads, and the way that it was promoted on television and other outlets is totally different from how we do our creator videos. So they come to us with the traditional expectation to produce a advertisement that is similar to what it used to be, but they want it to still be that same thing versus giving us the creative option to make it the creator's own so they can sell it to their audience, like you mentioned, in a way that is appealing to their audience. They don't see it that way. They have the scripts, they have the write-ups, and they want A, B, C, D done just like this, no matter what type of creator it is. And a lot of times that just doesn't work at the end of the day because it becomes unauthentic. It's not organic anymore. It's strictly an advertisement. And then when we post it, it sucks. And the brands look at us like, well, why did this happen? Can you do a do-over? Can you do another video? Well, we told you this wasn't going to work in the first place. You didn't allow the creator to do what they do best. You changed everything up, and yet you expect the same result. And that's what I think part of the problem is that we deal with when it comes to brands that don't understand the social space and don't give us the creative freedom to incorporate their idea with our creators' audience. So, Josh, give us some, you sitting back chilling, tell us what you think.
Yeah, I liked hearing all this, and it's cathartic hearing everybody else also has to go through this stuff.
Tony is just like on it. He's just like, let's go. He's putting the boxing gloves on and going to town.
I guess I'll sum up what everyone's saying. I think we work in a very dizzying space, and it's frustrating when folks are rushing or they don't quite know what the objectives are. So like understanding what is the priority KPI for the campaign, I think that contributes a lot to why brands want redrafts, because they want everything. They want views, they want a well-placed product integration, they want link clicks, and really it comes down to you have to pick one or maybe two to really have an effective campaign. And most of the campaign managers are just getting barked at from their advisor, whoever's in charge of them. And so they're coming to us, and there's not really that. And honestly, the manager is the layer between, so the creator doesn't feel all that stress, or hopefully. So yeah, I think that's an interesting point that Arthur was making there. And then just in terms of like following the process, like this legal where deals get dropped, like, look, if you want to get to the contract phase and then change the statement of work afterwards, that's fine, but don't send me a contract after my creators sent you a draft. Right. So I get really frustrated when we're getting rushed to send concepts and send drafts when we don't even have the business sorted. So I think good managers have that instinct in them to check boxes. And I personally have a process that I see envisioned for every deal. And whenever we change that process, I always get a little bit like anxious. So I don't know about war stories, but it becomes a war when my creator sent you a draft and it's a very good draft and you are asking to change the statement of work. So, yeah.
I want to kind of springboard off the draft thing real quick, because I recently got a client that didn't approve a draft and they responded with, "It's going to get low views." And I was like, wow, I didn't know you could predict the future. You know, I'm like, how am I going to go back to this creator and say this? Right. But in terms of drafts, this is kind of an interesting one. I would love to ask everyone here, how many drafts are acceptable for anyone to add, like a buyer to ask of you guys and ask a creator to do? And secondly, is there like an industry standard kill fee? And do you expect that? Like if Lori, if Nick and Sienna films 2 drafts, someone's not approving it, and Nick's just like, I'm freaking done filming this. Like, are you going after that client and being like, you guys got to give me some dough for my client because we're abandoning this? Like, is that like drafts, kill fees? Anyone have anything on that? Go.
Well, I'll go with your example. You know, for as you mentioned, my clients, Nick and Sienna, they are, you know, they're a daddy-daughter duo, primarily on TikTok. That is their biggest platform. And, you know, just speaking on Nick and Sienna, they follow all instructions to a T. And we also do our due diligence of making sure that whatever brief is submitted is also inside the contract. So that brief, that campaign brief and talking points and visuals and creative is actually now in the contract. So it's a contractual obligation, right? So everybody's on the same page. So for them to follow something to a T, and then whatever brand, again, this is fictional, this is not real, but if whatever brand was like, asked for 2 redrafts. And the thing is, again, going back to the relationship of it, if it's an easy solve, if it's about like refilming one story frame, Instagram story frame, and it's so easy to do, we'll do it for you, for the relationship, because we both want to make this a successful partnership. But if they're asking for a redraft of a YouTube video, that's an entirely different story, because they have a team, they have you know, they have their video editor, they have their videographer, we have a producer, like we have all of these people. So again, like situational, but if I would ask for a kill fee in that instance, because we followed everything to a T for, per this contract. And, you know, if you're asking for these subjective redrafts and edits, then we're either going to ask for a reshoot fee. And if you are just going to pull the deal entirely, I always make sure that my client's attorneys also insert some sort of kill fee for those types of situations, so that, you know, we never hope that it gets to that point that we have to talk about termination and a kill fee. But if ever, my client is protected, and we always make sure that that's a part of the contract.
Yeah.
Yes. I have to agree with Lori on that one. I would say standard is 2 redrafts per campaign for us. That makes everybody happy. The creator doesn't potentially like it, as long as it's not an indefinite amount of redrafts, which some brands will actually try that nonsense. But we will give them 2. And like Lori said, the most important thing about all of that, as well as with the brief, as well as with the SOW, is that it's in the contract. So going into the agreement, I know, and my creator knows, that we have up to 2 redrafts if they are unhappy. And that's our contractual obligation to fulfill that. Outside of that, it's a problem. So we either have to work it out, or like Lori said, for the relationship purpose, if it's an easy solve, we will go back and fix it if it's past the 2 draft point. However, for purposes where there's a team involved, like she said, it's a YouTube video where there's a whole long process. Yeah, now that becomes a problem. And if we do need to back out because we felt that we presented what we were contractually obligated to do, and somehow the brand did not agree with that, or we can't come to terms, then yes, something has to come out of that in terms of some monies, and we can go our way and you can go our way, and no problems at all. So that's what I think about that.
I have one final thought, just going off of what Tony said. Also on the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Like obviously we're talking about brands who are asking for reshoots, but I am a firm believer that as a manager that you are also an educator. So not only do you educate brands and how to work with talent, but you also educate the talent that you work with. Because it's not always the brands that are difficult, right? Like some of our clients can be difficult.
Yes.
And so it's really important for us as a manager to educate our talent of like, hey, this is what it says in the contract. They are allowed 2 reshoots. So make sure that you read this brief and you read the SOW very carefully and follow everything to a T, so that they can ask for these reshoots. Because there are talent who, you know, they won't do that, and they'll start, especially, you know, like if they're on the younger side and, you know, they're new to this whole thing, they've never had a real job before. And it's our job to educate them on how to work with brands and how to run your business and be professional. So just wanted to add that little thought, because it's not always the brands, right? Our talent can be too. And we are in the very middle of it, trying to manage and make sure that everything's going well. And our talent never see that. Our talent don't see all of the phone calls and emails and things that we go through to make sure that both sides are happy and both are, you know, are getting what they've getting.
Win-win situation for everyone.
Yes, exactly.
Correct. The education of customer service, that is our responsibility. And it's a great point, Lori.
Yeah. I just, when we're in the middle of this and we're trying to make everyone happy, it's like the damnedest thing. You got people in the brand space that are like, how hard is it? They're just filming a 10-second video, Johnny. I'm like, what? Did you hear yourself? Like, what are you thinking? Yeah. Great, guys. Well, hey, I want to just move. I want to be super sensitive of time. I know I asked you guys for 45 minutes and it's just starting to get close to that. I saw a couple of questions in the chat and I'm just going to kind of point at you guys individually. I know there was one directed at Josh here. Kevin was asking, Josh, can you elaborate what happens when a creator hits the syndication phase? So you described your process, like you kind of put creators into 3 buckets. And I think Kevin's asking about that syndication phase.
Yeah, the latter phase, sure. So monetization still happens in the syndication phase. There's always going to be money, once you hit that tipping point. But syndication phase is really taking your content and expanding your likeness and your brand that you're building, your business. So a very simple positing would be taking your TikToks and downloading them and posting them on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, right? Like just taking the content that you already have and making sure that you're touching all the different buckets, Pinterest, if that's applicable for your type of content, Snapchat, whatever it is. But that goes further into obviously building out product lines, right? Or developing longer form content or positioning yourself as a linear talent, an X digital or beyond digital talent. So it really just comes down to what your vertical is, or I guess like category of content or the style of creator or artist that you want to be. So if you're not just a digital creator, some creators will live and die in digital, and that is great. They're going to make a living there and they can stay there. We live in a new era where you can just be a digital creator. You don't have to be an actor. You don't have to be a singer afterwards. But yeah, the syndication phase is really just taking your likeness that you've built online and then repositioning to either other spaces online or beyond.
Nice.
So, man, I'm just going to direct this one at Arthur. Arthur, how much of a manager's job involves obtaining new career opportunities beyond the social platforms where creators first found notoriety?
I think that's actually a really interesting one because I make a point of it whenever I start managing a creator to say what's the end goal, because I think that that's kind of really your job. Like, it's so easy to be caught up in the very transactional nature of what being a social media manager is. But I think we've all got to be aware that, social media stars don't last forever. All the people who were popping when YouTube just started, what's left of them, maybe PewDiePie. But aside from that, like everyone sort of faded into the background. And I think it's really important to not just take advantage of creators while they're having their moment, but to help them build a brand and a platform that can support them for the long run. Because I think ultimately, otherwise you're kind of just, there's a kind of sort of use them up and throw them away type factor to it, which I'm not really a fan of. And I think also these creators by definition are incredibly creative people and have a lot of ideas and sort of big dreams that they want to achieve. So there's sort of no one better to gander into sort of these other realms, other areas than with them, because I feel as if they bring something incredibly unique to the table and also something that definitely, strikes a chord with many people, hence their incredibly large audience. So I think like outside of social media, we always try to build bigger ideas and help our creators even further. I mean, we've even had several situations at Grail where some of our creators have actually become managers and they manage themselves and other creators, which I think is really, really cool because it's, people, they gain the knowledge from working with us long term, but then if they want something a little bit more stable and they want to sort of become part of the world that they're so central to, they can be. And I think a good example of this in the past was Casper Lee, like a really big YouTuber who now probably runs one of the biggest agencies in the UK and doesn't really YouTube anymore, but has a very sort of stable lifestyle because of it.
I hope you don't mind me chiming in here, Johnny. I love this question here.
Yeah, go for it.
I think, Arthur, that was very well said, as a matter of fact, because I think it is our job to, in the beginning, in speaking with creators, to find out their long goals and their expectations, as well as their talents as a whole outside of social media. Because as a manager, someone like me that has vast experience in other areas, I come from a music background. I've worked at various labels. I've managed artists on major labels as well as independent artists and producers and songwriters. Our agency has connections with production companies and producers for films and television shows. We know a lot of modeling agencies and owners of agencies. So for us as SDI, not only do we bring to the table the management component of social media and our expertise, we also, outside of that, are well-versed in our connections as well as our relationships for other careers. So we offer, in that initial conversation, when we find out about what a creator's true intent is that may exist outside of social media, if it's something that they want assistance with, because we really are just their quote unquote social media managers. But if somebody is going or wants to be a model and they say, hey, well, Tony, while we're doing this social media thing, I know you have contacts in modeling. Do you think you can help me? Okay, so now we've been brought into the fold of assisting in the modeling career in addition to the social media career. Or someone may be a recording artist and they're just getting started and they found out or they know about my experience and the people that I know, and they say, hey, Tony, I know you know this and you do that. Do you think you can guide me on what it takes to get my career off the ground in music? So I think at the end of the day, it really just depends on how not only does our client insert us into their extracurricular activities, but it's how we utilize our experience to bring to the table to offer them these options of help that we actually can do that actually makes sense. Because of our experience and knowledge, we don't have to just exist in the social media world. We can actually take some of our creators to the next level in some of their other endeavors.
That was said spectacularly, Tony.
Thank you, sir.
Love that. All right, guys. Well, once again, I just want to be super sensitive of time. Does anyone have any other questions or want to springboard one more time? Should I say the word draft approval to get a rise out of everyone again? I feel like I need to host an entire, now I'm my brain was spinning for a second. I'm like, should I host an entire webinar on draft approvals and be like, hey, if you're going to do a campaign with me, you got to come to this webinar and hear everyone talk about draft or usage rights or anything. I'm like, geez, everyone's pretty, I get it. It's one of the most annoying things. But anyway, guys, thanks for coming. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Attendees, thanks for staying with us a little longer than, I announced it, but this was a really, really fun. That's why I hope that you guys felt it was fun too. We'll send you guys a recap video of this if you guys want to check it out. Audience members, I'm sure our marketing folks are going to put this on the internet, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it is. So make sure you're following that and you can rewatch the video and grab anything you missed. But everyone have a great afternoon, a wonderful Thursday, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Tony, Josh, Arthur, Lori. Arthur, thanks for staying up late, man.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, very nice to meet all of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Let's do it again soon.
We will, Tony. We will, man.